And joining me now is criminal defense attorney SARA AZARI and Joey Jackson. Thanks both of you for being here. Wow, what an extraordinary few days here. The defense just sat down with CNN's Randy Kay just in the last hour, and she asked him about this pivotal decision to put Murdaugh on the stand in this trial. Listen to what he had to say.
The thinking of it at that point in time is, what is there to lose? They've heard about all of his financial crimes. They really hadn't heard why he committed financial crimes, and they needed to hear about his drug addiction. By putting him on the stand, I think the jury also got to see his emotions about Maggie and Paul, which are very raw and real. and they were moving. A number of the jurors were very moved by his testimony. But then, you know, the next day on cross-examination, I've got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, they clearly painted Alec as, you know, a liar who can just look you in the face and lie to you.
I mean, look, Jim Griffin, I'm sure, is a very good defense attorney, but it seems like what he's describing is wishful thinking, especially in light of what that juror said. The tears and the emotion may have backfired. Sarah, you can...
Oh, I'm sorry. I hear you. Yeah, look, Abby, there were really two reasons why we have a defendant testify. To humanize and to explain. He did have to explain things. I was always saying that this is one of those cases where I fear that, you know, certainly it's his right. He wants to exercise that right. I think his lawyers have to let him do it. And the problem here is that there were two death knells. Not just his testimony, but the admissibility of all of this lying. It really, at the end, was not about motive. It was about looking people in the eye that he eventually stole from. He was, you know, there was no presumption of innocence in this case, Abby. I think these jurors made up their mind way early on when they realized that he's a con man and a liar. And then, you know, his testimony just sort of sealed the deal. And you know, 45 minutes or 2 hours and 15 minutes, whatever it was, to me, there is no way that there was any analysis in this jury room under the circumstantial evidence instruction, because you're supposed to take every piece of evidence and look at it, and if there's two inferences to be made, it's supposed to be made in favor of the defendant. There is no analysis here. They had made up their mind, and I'm no longer stunned because I've processed this, but it is absolutely a travesty of justice.
I want to play what you're referring to here. This is a jury member speaking out about how long those deliberations took. Take a listen.
When you first got in the room, you took a vote?
It was 2 not guilty, 1 not sure, and 9 guilty.
What was your vote?
Guilty. We started deliberating, going through the evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking, and about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating, we figured it out.
Joey, are you surprised by that? They went from 2 not guilties and 1 unsure to a unanimous guilty verdict in 45 minutes.
Yeah, so Abby, I'm not. Good to be with you and Sarah, and here's why. Of course, the judge every day instructs the jury after the conclusion of the case that you're not to discuss the case, you're not to render any decisions or conclusions. Having said that, remember that the jurors are there and they're locked in and day out. They were there for 6 weeks. They're not formulating their opinions automatically, even though the judge says don't render the final determination till you deliberate. So they go into that jury room certainly with an idea as to what they want to do, and they speak about that idea. And it's one thing to have a reasonable doubt. It's another thing to have a doubt that's not founded upon reason, that's not founded upon good judgment, and that has no basis in fact. And so the way I see it is that the jurors came in there, they listened to all they needed to listen to. It was rehashed. They heard closing arguments, they heard rebuttals, they heard all they needed to hear. And based upon the actual defendant himself and his attempt to get on the stand and to give a rendition of events, which one did you believe? The first one, the second version, him crying, him not crying, him lying to his clients, him lying to us. And so I think they said enough is enough. We're done. You're guilty. End of story. And I think that's how it played out.
And Sarah, we don't have a ton of time left, but I do want to ask you about Judge Newman made that really searing point about the opioid use, and maybe you were a different person in that moment. The opioid addiction was such a key part of Murdaugh's own testimony, but again, this may have backfired, it seems to me.
Yeah, so Abby, you know, I think you and I talked at length about this and how it's a double-edged sword, right? It was never a defense. Addiction is not a defense to a crime, but it's certainly an explanation for the lying and conning and thieving. And this is exactly what I was saying, that at some point it's going to turn and backfire. And this judge weaponized it. You know, he said, well, maybe you didn't kill your wife and son, but the monster in you did, the addict in you did. So, you know, and to Joey's point, you know, those eggs that we were talking about yesterday, I didn't take those eggs lightly. I had a brownie case. When jurors bond in that way, where they're sharing food, you know, for 6 weeks, and they're really tight and good friends, I always fear that it's pro-prosecution. In my experience, it has been. And so I just think that also from this juror's interview with ABC earlier, there's a mere presence instruction that was not given in this case, that your mere presence at the crime scene cannot by itself indicate guilt. It's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt of guilt. So to him, the video alone, even without the lie, was enough to decide verdict in this case. I think he has a strong appeal. I think that when you take the stand, it sort of locks you into harmless error. But I think he has a lot of other grounds, Fifth Amendment, the admissibility of all the motive evidence. So we'll see where it goes.
And they do intend to appeal, so we will see where this goes. Sarah, I'll always remember those eggs are canary in the coal mine here for Alex Murdaugh. Sarah Azari and Joey Jackson, both of you, thanks so much.
Thanks, Abby.